Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Joe Lo Truglio about Outpost. It was your directorial debut, right?
It certainly was for a feature. For a feature, yes.
For a feature, yes. It was your directorial feature debut. It's available now, VOD, and in select theaters, I believe. Outpost. Welcome to the show. It's an honor and privilege to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's interesting because I kind of want to know because, you know, a lot of the stuff that you've kind of worked in has been in a lot of comedies, TV or movie and everything. Was the passion or interest of diving into the thriller horror world, did that go back, or was that a recent kind of interest for you specifically?
It went back.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a fan of horror since I was a kid, 10 or 11. So this was something that I've been wanting to do, that I knew I would return to as soon as I had the opportunity. And after doing, 8 seasons on the incredible show that I was on, I was able to save a little money and make a movie. So I'm very happy with how it came out.
Yeah, I think that show is called Brooklyn NineNine, right? I'm not sure. Yeah,
that's right.
And it's interesting too because, I just love the concept of this because there's so much kind of happening in the horror thriller kind of world right now, because I feel like there's different ways to scare people now, Joe. You don't need the gore. You don't need the jump scares. People are scary. So kind of with, Beth's character and everything, was the mindset a lot to kind of go this route of maybe not leaning on traditional horror tropes and doing kind of the new kind of psychological, people are scared? Like, I'm just curious about that specifically.
Well, the story kind of worked. I worked a little bit backwards from the kind of practical limitations that I had making this movie. So it was going to be low budget. We needed a small cast. I wanted my wife, Beth, who's a great actor, to be in it. It was going to be in our household for a long time. I knew I needed to get production value. So, a mountain seemed like a great place for that, logistics aside. And so once I had those parameters, I started to think about the horror movies that I loved. And those were, again, like you're saying, psychological descents into madness, those types of topics. And so that's how the story slowly started to develop. What kind of story like that would take place on the top of a mountain? And suddenly Outpost started to ooze forth.
And I'm wondering if you and Beth had a conversation about this, because I feel like maybe when you're filming it, you're not thinking about like the audience member watching Outpost because you're in the zone, you're filming and everything, but maybe when you wrap, because I was really invested in this, to be honest with you, like a detective. Like I was really watching this movie where I was like, I had to put my phone away. You know what I mean?
Sure.
This is not Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Superbad. You know what I mean? Like you have to pay attention. You know what I mean? Are you kind of like, were you hoping that you were going to be able to make something that has those kind of really kind of scary kind of moments, but something where the audience really has to kind of dial in and be kind of immersed in? Because I felt that with this movie.
I wanted to make a movie that had surprises in it, that I was very familiar with the formula. Many of our audiences out there are. And so I was trying to have a couple of twists on a movie, and I wanted the movie to live in the genre, but maybe play outside of it in a way. And to be honest, that's made it very difficult to kind of explain or even market to people. But I also feel like that's what sets the movie apart. And, I'm excited by movies. I'd rather people hate the movie or really like the movie. Mm-hmm. This has been my career from the get-go, starting from the sketch group The State, which got just torn apart when we came out, or Wet Hot American Summer, which got torn apart. The movie will live on its own and will find its audience. And I wanted to make something that was different and wasn't exactly the same. And if that meant that it didn't get into a lot of festivals or a lot of people liked it, that's okay. I mean, that's all right. I made the movie that I wanted to make. And I think that's important for any filmmaker.
There's a magical feeling about it. There really is.
Well, I love making movies. I'm going to make another one. They're very hard to do. It's kind of amazes me that any movie gets done. But what I love about it is the amount of different talent that you need to kind of bring in to get the movie realized, and all sorts of mediums from art to wardrobe to music to your camera. Like, I love it. And so without getting too arty-farty and excited about, movies in general, I think they're special mediums, and they warrant people that really have a vision for what they want to see out there.
Totally. And I find this very interesting because I do have to say, when I found out about your movie Outpost and I saw that you were directing it, and you wrote it, I was very, very intrigued. Because like I said in the beginning, I know you from a lot of your work in some of my favorite movies and everything in comedy. So kind of when I saw that, it was very interesting to me, you working in that genre where I've seen you in this. It's the same thing with like Jordan Peele. I grew up watching Jordan Peele on, Mad TV. And then, he directs Get Out. That's kind of a cool thing though, right? Like, it shows your range. Like, do you think about that at all, basically? That you're able to kind of, a lot of people know you from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and other things, but now it's like, wow, like, this is pretty cool. Like Outpost, a horror thriller. This is interesting.
Yeah, their comedy and horror have similarities. That speaking of Jordan Peele, like, I know he's talked about it, and they both operate in these worlds where a moment happens and there's an immediate reaction, right? And whether it's funny or whether it's scary, and so it doesn't surprise me that many comedians are able to live in that in the horror genre as well. Pacing and timing are big parts of both those genres.
100%. When I first met Boyle on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I felt like I knew this character for like 3 years. Like the first episode I've seen this character. Did it feel like that when you played that character?
Every character is different, right? Yeah. And there's new things about each one that you do. I know with Boyle, I loved him immediately because he was so resilient, and he, although, he was a bit of a puppy dog, like, he did show spine at certain moments. It took a while. I think the writers did a fantastic job, with his arc. I think that's, by the way, why they should be getting paid. And I support what they're doing out there right now. And so with Boyle, Boyle's a lot, I think, more bright-eyed and optimistic than I am, and that's always fun to play when you have a character that lives in that world. So it felt different in that way. Yeah, it felt different in that. Wow, I'm glad I'm able to play a character that is physically and affectionate and has no shame about that, and is loyal and has really prizes his relationships. I mean, that's a great character to live in.
Absolutely. It's interesting too because, he was very good at also blocking out a lot of the teasing. Like, they would tease Boyle constantly. Obviously, he had his breaking points at times, but he was on his own. He was in his zone.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss, man.
Absolutely. You could tie this question to Outpost as well, Joe, but I find it interesting. The access to content is one of my favorite things right now. The fact that, Popternative, we are making an effort to be a global outlet. We want to, cover content from all around the world. And I think it's just amazing, with streaming platforms, we get access to so much content from around the world. Is it really cool to look back at a lot of content that you've been a part of, that whether it's watching it on a streaming service, YouTube, clips, memes, they're not going to go away. They're going to be around for a good amount of time. You even look at like Role Models, I Love You, Man, like movies like that. Those are the first, you worked on so many, but those are the ones that come to mind first. But like, it's pretty cool to think about, right?
I feel extraordinarily fortunate to have been involved in projects that seem to have longevity and are iconic in their own ways and have fostered such a great fan base. And I think that's a result of collaboration. In all those projects. You often have filmmakers, writers, and actors and directors that aren't afraid to let the artist do their thing. They create a safe and friendly environment to create that content. it makes sense that those projects have lasting power, and I'm proud to be part of them. So people see that, because that's why they're good.
Yeah.
Yes, they're funny, but like there's other stuff going on in those projects that wouldn't elevate it if the set was toxic or exclusionary, or a multitude of other bad words, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I feel very, very lucky to be part of all of those things.
Yeah, totally. No, before we started, I said super bad. I mean, you know, that was actually that was the first time I saw you on screen. I will say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was because you did stuff before. I mean, like, why not? Did you do Wet Hot American Summer before that, right?
Yes, that was before. Yep.
I was a little late on that one, to be completely honest with you. Like with Wet Hot American Summer, like because there was the movie and then there was the Netflix show, right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, the movie came out in like 2000 and was not received well, but then it slowly found its like cult audience, and then the Netflix. I mean, Netflix was a fan of the movie. All those execs grew up with the movie, and then we were able to do the series. But again, that's a testament to the collaborators, the creators of Michael Showalter and David Wayne, who started that whole thing.
Absolutely. With the Outpost, I'm just curious because I feel like it depends. I don't know. It could go either way. Maybe it was just kind of you needed a break to kind of soak everything in, or like what was the mindset when you wrapped the movie? Like, was it basically
of Outpost?
Was it let's go make another one? Yeah.
I was exhausted. I mean, the first, I mean, that's an obvious statement, but I mean, the first thing was that we did it, right?
Yeah.
I shot the movie not only with my wife, but also the DP, our director of photography, was an old friend, Frank Barrera, who I've known since I was 17. And there was an immediate sense of achievement. We had been talking about doing something for a while. The entire crew, which really put forth an effort that I am still humbled by, and most importantly, no one got injured. There was no, we shot this movie on top of a mountain at 6,300 feet, and there were a lot of factors that could have gone wrong. They didn't, and so immediately after the movie was done, it was just like, wow, man, we worked hard on this. This took 4 years, or 3 years, up until the point we shot it. But we finally did it. So, it's always good to do something that you say you're going to do, 100%. Even if it takes 5 years. If you say you're going to do something, once you do it, it's a great feeling.
I'm so happy for you. And honestly, I really enjoyed the film, and, I'm going to make it one of my duties to get the word out about this movie because I loved it. And I feel a lot of people are going to love it. And, we have that reach and everything. So when I can, I really want them, because my next question is it's interesting to think about. Is it cool to think about, because the horror movie fans, the community, they're so passionate and dialed in, and they eat up all the content out there. It's cool to think that the Outpost could be part of these horror movie marathons, or when spooky season comes in October. That's one of my favorite things about it. We need more to watch because we're gonna eat them all up. I feel like.
I agree. I have to say that the horror community is one of the sweetest, nicest, most inclusive, and supportive kind of clans that I've ever been lucky enough to be welcomed into, because they truly understand the power of what this subversive genre can do, how it provides voices for marginalized audiences and unique points of view. It's just, they're the best, and they welcomed me, specifically Fangoria and a few other people, prominent folks in the community. And it's important to be welcomed into an area that many people don't know you. And it's indicative of the power and the empathy of that group.
And Beth did such an amazing job in this film.
She did.
I just want to say she did an amazing job. No,
yeah.
Such a good job. And it's, again, right? I've seen her in a lot of things that are not horror and thriller, right? I've seen her in the comedy. That's the coolest thing about this, right? Lo Truglio, Beth Older. I'm a big fan, but like I didn't know both of you from this type of genre. You know what I mean?
Well, I would encourage, none of us are just one thing, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
encourage everyone out there to kind of be their complete selves. And it's up to you. You're the only person that's going to do that. No one else is going to, no friend, agent, manager, lawyer is going to kind of do that for you. You need to do it. Yeah. And don't get, don't have a label be put on you because that's what you're good at. There's all sorts of aspects of your creative self. So, I mean, this was another part of mine. So, it's out there, man. You just got to dig deep.
100%. And, the film's available on VOD now. Like, people can watch the film now, which is amazing.
I hope they do. I think it's a terrifying ride. I think it has some interesting things to say. And man, what a score and a soundtrack on this movie as well. And shout out to Steph Copeland who did that music. There's a lot to discover in Outpost, and I hope people give it a shot.
100%. Joe, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor and privilege to speak with you. Thank you really very much.
Peter, my pleasure. And good luck with your short film, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Joe Lo Truglio on Instagram, right? They could find it. That's probably the best way
Joe
to
Lo
go.
Truglio, and Outpost _ film on IG as well.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. Previous episodes. Look out for Joe Lo Truglio's feature directorial debut of Outpost, available now on VOD. Until next time, this is Joe and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.